Hey mathematicians, happy Friday. We only have 3 questions for homework. Gosh, Miss Douglas, you're so nice. Thanks, guys. Let's do those 3 questions and be done. Okay, so they are word problems that we're writing equations for. So my best advice is to read each problem a couple times. The first read through, I want you to think about, what do I not know? What number is missing that I have to figure out? Jenny and Oscar drove from their college to their hometown. The total distance was 194 6/10 miles. Okay. Jenny drove part of it. Jenny drove 86 25/100 of a mile. And Oscar drove the rest of the way. The directions say to write an equation, then find the distance that Oscar drove. What do we not know? We don't know how far Oscar drove. So in an equation, you need a variable. You need to choose what your variable is. Some people chose x, some people chose d for distance, or let's not use O for Oscar because O looks a lot like a 0. Let's choose d for distance. D equals the distance that Oscar drove. So you have to write that. Distance Oscar drove. Okay, now we need to figure out what kind of math are we doing? Are we adding, are we subtracting, are we multiplying, are we dividing? Yes, I know that a lot of you can do like the first step in your head, but when you write an equation, your variable shouldn't be isolated yet. So sometimes it helps to draw a little picture. Here's their college. Colleges are big. Here's their hometown. I'm a very bad artist. That's it. Okay. They're going to drive all the way, and all the way is 194 6/10 miles. Jenny drove the first bit. Jenny's driving 86. That's like, I'm going to call it about that much. Does not have to be to scale. We'll call this part Jenny. And we do know how much Jenny drove. She drove for 86 25/100. And the rest of it is Oscar, which we don't know, and we called that D. So what are you going to have to do between these 2 quantities to tell me that they are equal to the total? Write me an equation, solve for your variable. Here, the equation already exists. So you can read the problem, but really it's going to say, what is the value of t? It's just asking you to please solve this problem. You have 2 options. You can divide by a fraction because that 3/5 is being multiplied times t. Or life might be easier if you change 3/5 into a decimal. Fractions and decimals can be equivalent, but sometimes it's easier to work with one versus the other depending on the context of the problem. Now, in order to make a decimal, I need a denominator of tenths or hundreds. So 3/5 is equivalent to how many tenths? Well, 5 times 2 is 10. 3 times 2 is 6. 6/10 can look like no whole numbers and 6/10. So if it's easier for you to divide both sides by 6/10, that's an option. I will know that you did it on a calculator and did not actually practice your math if you can just tell me right now what this equals, because you're gonna have to change your 6/10. We cannot have denominators with decimals. We need a whole number. We need that to be 6. So you're going to have to change it before I see evidence of your long division, because you're actually doing this on your own as if this was a star question and you don't have your phones or calculators on the star. So please show me your actual work. I promise it's worth it. I'm not going to give 3 question assignments very often. And if I see people not actually trying them, then it's going to be never. Jackie ran 3 4/10 miles. Good for you, Jackie. That's a lot. And then she walked the rest of the way to her house. Okay, so this part is running. And this part is walking. We know this number. This number is unknown. We do know the distance she traveled, the total distance. So your job is to figure out how much she walked. Start with a variable, maybe a W. W equals how much she walked. How many, many has a Y. Many miles she walked, not ran. And then figure out what you're going to do. Are you going to add the running and the walking? Are you going to subtract the running and the walking? Are you going to divide them? Are you going to multiply them? You do know the total, so that should be on one side of your equal sign. I need to see the equation. I need to see your work. And I need to see your solution with its isolated variable. That's it. Those are the only 3 questions. Enjoy your weekend.